Hey guys, it's Golem. Today we're going to be discussing why Harbor has such a low pick rate compared to other controllers. Harbor was released in late 2022 in episode 5, the first controller to be released since Astra. Naturally, people had high expectations, but were quickly let down and the agent only had a 0.1% pick rate early on. So why did Harbor's fall off so fast, and why has he only made such little recovery during the 2 years that he's been played? Harbor utility is unique in the sense that it is all smoking utility besides his ultimate. His cascade, cove, and high tide all possess some sort of smoking ability that cuts off sightlines. The cascade, for example, is taller than most walls and will move forward, providing good space-taking cover and information denial. This is particularly strong on Icebox, on both the B main choke and the A main choke, for taking both A lobby and also B main. This is a good setup for the high tide. The high tide is a dynamic wall that will follow whichever path you lead it on. Because of this dynamic feature, high tide is great at splitting spaces in ways that other walls and smokes can't. This provides almost an element of surprise in the way that your team can hit sights following the Harbor wall. The cove, which is Harbor's bubble, is the only armored smoke in the game. Because of this, a lot of people use it for post-plant defusals and also planting the bomb itself. It is also really good at eating bullets. For example, you can right-click the cove out of hookah and jump into it, providing a safe jump out onto site from hookah. Compared to other controllers, Harbor also lacks what I like to call dynamic utility. Dynamic utility is utility like Paranoia or Molly. It is utility that can be used in multiple different ways with multiple different outcomes, as opposed to like static utility, which are walls, smokes, tripwires, etc. The Paranoia is dynamic because it has both stall potential and also aggression potential. It provides a lot of offensive and defensive potential for whatever situation you need. Every other controller has a piece of dynamic utility in their kit. Harbor has Cove. Cove is not a dynamic piece of utility. It can be used in a couple of different ways, but its use is always the same: cut sightlines and protect whatever's inside. Because of this, Harbor's kit is incredibly one-dimensional and lacks the value that a kit like Omen or even Clove has. Harbor's utility also is free information for the enemy, whereas every other controller can be anywhere on the map with their utility. Harbor utility basically sends a signal flare to the enemy about where Harbor is and what his team's setup is, while Cove hypothetically could be thrown from anywhere, and High Tide hypothetically could be thrown from one side or the other. Cascade is a dead giveaway of where Harbor would be and what site he would be defending if he's on defense. This is a massive problem for teams who are trying to be multi-dimensional and hide exactly what they're doing every round, especially if they're playing a comp that requires Harbor to be paired with one agent in particular. But Golem, you might say. You said Harbor was good. His utility is very strong. We haven't even talked about his ultimate, which you said was his strongest piece of utility. You're right. Harbor's ult is the strongest piece of utility. In fact, Harbor's ult is one of the strongest ults in the game. However, going back to dynamic utility, Harbor's ultimate is incredibly static. There's only one use for Harbor utility, and that's clearing space. Other ultimates, for example, Orbital Strike, Viper's Pit, Cosmic Divide, and even Omen ult, which I believe is called, I forget what it's called, but it's Omen ult, all have a level of dynamic use that Harbor ult does not. Viper's Pit kind of hinges on the fray of, is it dynamic, is it static? I don't know. It's kind of both. It depends on how you play around it. Harbor's ult, like we said, incredibly great for space clearing. But on maps such as Bind, Ascend, Split, basically any map that isn't Icebox, there are multiple different ultimates that provide higher value than Harbor's. Even Omen ult, just being used as hard information gathering, can provide more value than the Reckoning and its sole space clearing ability. This is why on maps like Bind you'll see Brimstone picked more than Harbor, simply because the Orbital Strike clears space more effectively and provides a post-plant aspect as well. So now you may be wondering, why would you even play Harbor at all? It sounds like, compared to other controllers, he just does not have enough value to even be played. Well, that's not entirely true. As a solo controller, Harbor is incredibly difficult to play and does not provide the value that, say, Omen or Brimstone would. But as a secondary controller, especially in Viper comps, Harbor provides immense value on wall refreshes, refreshing Viper's wall after it falls. And like we discussed earlier, Harbor is also playable as a pseudo-initiator due to his cascade space-taking ability. So why isn't he played more often in pro-level matches? Well, frankly put, there are better options. On Ascent, you have your meta, which is firmly believed to be the best set of agents that you can pick. On Bind, Harbor is playable, but it's difficult, and Viper Molly alone provides more value than Cove and Cascade combined. This theme continues across most maps until you get to Icebox and Pearl. Pearl, being outside of the pool right now, not really relevant, but Harbor's wall was extremely strong on B, where it sliced the site in half and provided a lot of cover, allowing the attacking team to have a much easier time getting on site. On Icebox, Harbor fulfills a similar role, except he plays more of the pseudo-initiator and wall refresh role. This is especially strong on no duelist comps on Icebox, where Harbor can be seen as like a throwaway man if need be. So now you know that while Harbor's smoking utility is incredibly strong, as a solo controller, he's pretty weak, and as a result, doesn't get picked very often.